Thank you so much. Really quickly, Manny, Anekal, I'm founder and CEO of The Next Level, where I write about the business of esports on a daily basis at tnl.media. I also have my own esports team, a consulting venture, and a couple more things to be announced later. Enough about me. You don't care about me. Let's talk to our esteemed panelists. If you can please introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Matthew Patrick, better known online as MatPat, and I run Theorists Inc. We run some of the largest channels in gaming, entertainment, TV, and movies, as well as one of YouTube's largest live streaming channels. And we also have Theorists Inc. Consulting, where we take our data-driven mindset and help brands who are looking to make waves in digital figure out how to kind of ease the learning curve, optimize their programming strategies, and get the maximum ROI for the investment that they're making in the space.
Hi everyone, I'm Ujesh Desai. I don't have as cool of a name as MatPat, but I run the gaming business at Logitech. So we focus on building gaming gear to help hopefully all the athletes that we've been talking about all morning perform better. So that's what we do.
I'm Bill Young. I run the sponsorship sales group for Twitch, which essentially is everything that's not media. So I don't handle anything that's pre-roll or mid-roll or video advertising, anything like that. So esports teams, leagues, original programming, events, things like that.
Awesome, thank you guys. Let's do it backwards. We'll start with you, Bill. You and I have known each other for 12 years. We've been knocking on brands' doors, talking about gaming for a long time. Even Matt and Coca-Cola, we've been through together. We've been through static, been through dynamic ads, been through mobile ads and social ads, and now we have esports. Is esports finally going to be the breakthrough barrier that we've had such a challenge with brands in gaming to date?
So I think that the fundamental challenges that brands face are still roughly the same. I don't think that's changed so much. It's still difficult to reach young men, particularly. What esports and what gaming in general, and certainly video content allows you to do is reach them. And I can't imagine how many times everybody in this room has heard the word authenticity slammed down your throat. I think the word has lost all meaning at this point, honestly. I'd like to up the stakes on that a little bit and use the word altruism instead. I think that for a brand to really make an impact, it's got to be not about them. And if you're working with a truly top shelf AAA content creator and influencer like MatPat, or you're sponsoring, let's say, an esports team like Team Liquid, they're going to give you the opportunity to reach that demographic in a way that really feels right. And that's increasingly more difficult to do.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. Just to stick on that for 1 second, although you're not concentrating on the media side, pre-rolls, mid-rolls, anything, how much do you think that Twitch and video and live streaming help aid to the brand process?
Yeah, interesting question. I think what makes Twitch in particular unique is actually the chat feature. There are other live platforms or other video platforms. There's other communities. But the chat feature that accompanies live video, it is the heart and soul of the community itself. And you're not just talking to your friends and your folks that you like the same games together and all that. You're also talking to the content creators themselves, and they respond. And I think that might be maybe touching on what you're getting out there.
No, I think you got it. That's
okay.
Fine. All right. Ujesh, we'll go to you next. You've been in the gaming hardware space for 20 years now, going back to SGI back in 1995. Yeah. We've all got the gray hair to prove that. We've been in the gaming space this long. What's been the biggest trends you've seen in the gaming space? I'm sure there's a lot. And further to that, where do you see esports fitting in going forward?
Oh, first of all, I have to thank you, Manny, for giving me the old guy question. So yes, I am the old guy on the panel here, I guess. I've been in esports and just gaming for a really long time. I'd say probably the biggest change I've seen in gaming is, we use the term gamer here, but it's kind of funny. I have 2 daughters at home that are 14 and 11, and before they heard me use the term gamer, they never even called themselves gamers. It's just something they happen to do.
It's a risque word.
In fact, well, it wasn't even risque. It's just they kind of thought about it. They go, well, what do you mean? Yeah, we play games. Why does that make me a gamer? It's kind of like when I grew up watching TV. I also played games. I grew up the Atari generation. That's why they called me a gamer, and I self-identified as a gamer. But it's not like I also watched TV and I called myself a TVer or a movieer, right? I mean, gaming is just part of, I think the mobile gaming is what's really taken it off, right? And my youngest, I think she was born with an iPad in her hand playing Minecraft. So I think that's been the biggest trend I've seen in gaming is, yes, it's still a lot of males that play games, but I think more and more we're seeing it to cross-gender. You see a lot more women playing video games, people of all ages, young kids, middle-aged college kids, all the way up to old dudes like me that never gave up playing video games. So I think that's probably one of the biggest trends I've seen. As far as esports, I think, there's never been a more exciting time to be in esports. I remember, Logitech G, we started back in esports in 1997 with the Frag back in Dallas. I don't know how many people remember the Frag. So to see where it came from there to now it's selling out stadiums, and what did they say, 32, or I can't even remember, was it 37 or 40 million people watched the league finals last year? I mean, it's just incredible to see where it's come, and I think that's just the beginning. Because I truly feel like the one thing that esports has for it, it's truly global, so you can be anywhere in the world and watch it. And it also spawns, it's a new sport for a younger generation. So that's what really excites me about esports.
No, I think that's a fantastic comment. I think to react to your point on everyone is a gamer, right? I mean, if you play Candy Crush, play Call of Duty, you're a gamer. No one says they're a musicer or a TVer or a movier. So I think it's a fantastic point. Thank you for that. Matt, moving along to you. Your YouTube channels have 12 million subscribers, 60 million monthly views. We talk about esports in the context of tournaments, events, teams, athletes. I actually believe that Twitch live streaming and YouTube vlogging, VOD is actually integral to the overall concept. Talk about just how you got started in that space.
Sure.
And to someone who'd want to get into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, to the point about everyone is a gamer, I think that really applies. So I started my channel about 6 years ago at a time when no one really wanted to take a chance on me. I was transitioning industries, and it was in the middle of the economic recession, and everyone's like, oh, you're this weird theater kid. And I'm like, no, I can actually write and direct and edit and use data to grow audiences and this and that, and I understand new media. And so I started a YouTube channel to kind of showcase that, and have since kind of grown it into everything that you said you just listed. But where we kind of found our niche was we saw a lot of people who were playing games online, reviewing games online, things like that, but no one was taking it and evolving what gaming content looked like. And so what the Game Theorists channel does, what the Film Theorists channel does, is we take your favorite IP and we approach it from an educational perspective. We take, did you know that you could diagnose Super Mario as a sociopath based on his behavior in his games? But, and you're watching a video about Super Mario, but you learn about abnormal psychology and what it means to be a sociopath. Do you... Yep, that's what we do, that's my job. Minecraft, one of my favorite episodes is we analyzed Minecraft diamond armor, and we say, how much would this actually be worth in real life? And we're talking about mathematical scaling and the 4 C's of diamonds, cut, clarity, color, all that stuff. And the audience walks away with something. And I think that goes to the point that you were just saying, which is, being a gamer isn't just someone who is sitting on the couch and just kind of like grinding through games every day, but it's people who are appreciating it from a humor perspective, from an artistic perspective, who are drawing fan art, who are, engaging in remixes of popular music, or in our case, who are approaching these games from an over-analytical standpoint and wanting to kind of look at their favorite IP through a new perspective. As far as kind of recommendations to people, who are looking to enter the space, be it on Twitch or, on any of the platforms, Twitch, YouTube especially, it's just a crowded space at this point. I think, finding what is going to make your voice and your brand differentiated in that space is challenge number one. And then challenge number two is, because the ecosystem has evolved so much, there's a greater pressure for more content, longer form content, more premium looking content at a faster churn rate. And so what you're seeing is a lot of YouTube gamers, a lot of Twitch streamers, things like that, feeling the pressure of having to constantly deliver on this treadmill of content. And so if you're first entering that space, it's a hard treadmill to get on and stay relevant in, as videos have a shorter lifespan and are getting less and less reach because there's just so much other content out there to watch.
No, for sure. I don't think I've ever heard 4 C's in Minecraft in the same sentence, so thank you for that
You're
analogy. Bill, back to you. I know obviously you just recently started at Twitch, but if you could talk about, what are some of the biggest or best or your favorite esports sponsorships that Twitch has done in the last year? I wrote about that last year. We saw about 50 plus non-endemic brands in the space, but half of those actually activated on Twitch. What are some of your favorite examples?
Yeah, I mean, I won't even just limit it to Twitch. I'll just talk about the
Sure.
ones that I really appreciate. So again, on the theme of altruism, Xfinity did a program with Evil Geniuses where they dropped a 2 gigabyte fiber line into their training facilities. They not only gave them better service, way better service, but they also brought in a production company to upgrade their furniture and their decor and their TVs. Like, they made their lives better, and because they live there. They don't just train there and play video games there. They live in these houses. So they made their lives genuinely better and benefited from it, from all the content that Evil Geniuses created out of that, and it's just a great way to earn loyalty. Now, for speaking broader, it's not just about like one activation. It's about like a philosophy or a strategy. And I think Buffalo Wild Wings in particular, in the last, say, 12, 18 months, has done a phenomenal job. They've had streamers competing, influencers competing within stores. They sponsored TwitchCon's Arena last year with like 32 different, I think over 32 different influencers and competitors playing H1Z1. And then they just recently had a program with EA on Titanfall 2, which was so successful that they even mentioned it in their earnings call. I mean, imagine that, like a publicly traded company mentioning an eSports program that was so successful that it actually made the relatively small number of bullet points there. So I think that they're one of the more savvy players in the space right now, and I hope to see other brands replicating that sort of thoughtfulness.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out Buffalo Wild Wings and Mike Tubman, who was here earlier this morning. They've done a great job in terms of getting into this space. Ujesh, back to you. Logitech has been involved in esports for a long time, I mean, many years now. You've got team sponsorships with top North American teams like Cloud9, Team Solomid. How do you go about planning your esports sponsorship with teams? What sort of metrics do you look for? What are the key value points or KPIs?
Yeah, so well, because we've been doing it for so long, you can imagine we have tons of teams that reach out to us. So we try to support as many as we can, but we don't have an infinite amount of resource. So wherever possible, if we can't directly support them through a sponsorship, we want to make sure at least they have the right gear and equipment. But fundamentally, there's 4 things we look for. I'd say the first thing we look for is the ownership and the management. That's really important because, frankly, that's who you're going to spend most of your time working with. You work a lot with the players, especially us, because we use the players to give us information on our gear and how to make them better. But we tend to do that through the manager. We don't want to bother the players directly, when we don't have to, because their number one goal is that they need to train, they need to play, they need to be better. So that's the first thing. So you need to have really good owners, really good management structure that you can count on, because you're getting into a sponsorship with them, and you don't want it to turn into the sponsorship where you write this strict contract and you're following it to the letter of the law, because that's just not fun for anyone. Mm-hmm. It's really more of a partnership, so you need to feel like you have a good friendship and a partnership. So I'd say that's number one. The second thing we look at is the longevity of the team. So I think everyone looks at kind of success, and I think success is important, but I think consistency is more important than success. Teams are going to have their ups and downs. It's no different than a sporting team. I'm a lifelong fan of the Philadelphia Eagles.
I'm so sorry.
And I suffer. I suffer, like a lot of suffering. But you still follow your team. It's really painful.
I'm from Cleveland. I know that pain. I know that pain.
You know the pain. So you want that longevity, I think, is important, right? So you don't just look for the one-hit wonders. You want to find a team that's in it for the long run, which leads to the third thing that we look for. What is their long-term plan? Their 1-year plan, their 2-year plan, frankly, their 5-year plan. And you work with them on that plan. And then lastly, because we're a worldwide brand, there's over 20 esports teams that we currently work with around the world. We want to make sure the teams that we work with have a worldwide presence. And we manage most of it through our corporate office in California, but you also have to have a strong team within the regions that can work with the teams, and you're localizing content, you're making sure you're there helping them boot camp on site and everything. So I think those would be the 4 major things that we look for.
No love for Team Liquid, who's based here today?
Oh, I love Team. Is Steve here?
Steve's here.
Where's
Steve,
Steve?
raise your hand. Oh, he's probably outside making more money.
See? No love because he skipped my panel.
Seriously. Matt, getting back to you, actually segueing back on something you touched upon in the first question. I believe in the 3Ds, data-driven decision making, maybe because I'm Indian, I like math, potentially. But your company, Theorists, uses data a lot in what they do. Talk about how important that is from a social strategy perspective in terms of branding and marketing as well. How do you use that data?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're crunching data all the time, every week, across all the different platforms. And so if I were to kind of make some recommendations as far as things you should be prioritizing, one is similar to what you said, consistency, actually, where a lot of brands see a huge subscriber number, a huge follower number on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and they're like, oh, this is a big influencer in that space. Well, they might have been 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, whatever, but it's constantly updating and changing. And what a lot of brands don't realize in this space, if they're either partnering with an influencer or looking to build a brand themselves, is that if you're not constantly delivering something that is re-engaging that follower or re-engaging that subscriber, you're going to be filtered out of their algorithm, right? So that follower will no longer be seeing your posts. Your reach is slowly going to be throttled to the point of irrelevance at that point. And so I think consistent engagement across whatever the platform is, be it retweets and likes in a Twitter feed or views on a specific YouTube channel, concurrent viewers on a Twitch live stream, all of that stuff is important to look at. Look at the past history of their uploads, their content, and how is it performing. More content or more platforms specifically, if you're talking about YouTube, you absolutely have to be talking about absolute watch minutes. YouTube, Facebook, both are optimizing for longer watch sessions on their platforms in order for you to get more reach. They're optimizing for longer form content, and they're optimizing for things that drive long watch sessions from one video to the next to the next. And so if you're creating content, make sure that it's long form. Long gone are the days of the 1 minute, 2 minute long viral videos. You're actually having to drive those watch minute sessions, and so being able to drive viewership across those videos is super important. If you're partnering with an influencer, and especially working in the gaming space, make sure that those videos are 10 to 15 minutes long. That is the sweet spot for gaming content currently right now. If you want to boost your visibility in search, make sure that they're slightly longer. And then for anyone who is looking to kind of establish a brand on the platform, subs per thousand or efficiency of conversion, I would say, on that platform is another one that people tend to overlook. Because if you look at trends about how many subscribers did this convert per viewer, how many followers did this post convert per retweet or whatever, is going to give you a sense of what is driving new eyeballs to your content, what is converting new eyeballs to your content, versus what is just elevating your reach. I think those are the metrics that give you very clear, actionable results that you can kind of optimize your programming strategy in the future for.
No, it's a great point, and nothing against YouTube or Twitch, but I fully believe in Facebook Live and what they're doing as a platform. Now Facebook just launched a TV app. You're talking about TV dollars. Facebook's one of the 4 companies I don't fuck with, so be careful about that. Google being another one of them. Bill, back to you about brands. So we talked about the brands who obviously invested and sponsored the ones that you like. Me personally, there's one brand that I would love to see enter esports, and that's Dove. Because for me, I believe that the female audience is one of the growing audiences within esports. Dove is very authentic, honest, truthful. I'd love to see them enter this space, and I believe 2017 we'll see the first female brokers brand. So that's my call. Who would you like to see as a brand enter this space?
Well, you've been very good at predicting
only
what
900.
brands are going to.
Only batting 900.
Yeah. So I'll take a little different spin on it. I think about it in terms of brand categories. For as long as I've been doing this, which is almost 20 years, the primary categories have been the same. It's insurance and beverage and auto and telco and grooming products. QSR, these are the same brand categories that have been active in gaming for as long as I can remember. But what really amazes me in that is let's look at insurance. Geico has been fantastic. They've been creative. They've been savvy. The neighbor campaign they did with Team Solimid, if you haven't seen that video or video series, it's wonderful. Just go watch it. But where's the rest of the insurance industry? You're talking about a customer that is going to be buying insurance for another 60 years after they've been exposed to you when they first start buying insurance. 60 years. Why are you not approaching them where they want to be approached? Geico gets it very well. I'm really, really surprised to see them being the only ones in that space.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think when I did the research on insurance, it's $60 billion spent on auto insurance alone annually in the U.S. So maybe you want to get a piece of that revenue. I'm not sure about that. Ujesh, let's close off the questions for the last two panelists. I recently wrote just today about the Indian eSports opportunity. Flipkart, which is the Amazon of India, sponsored a tournament. In this last week, you've seen $35 million of investment go into this space. Do you think the time is right for Indian esports? I mean, just when I used to go back for years, you still had broadband issues, infrastructure issues. What are your thoughts on the space?
Yeah, so I think in the times I've gone there, they still have issues. I think their phone network is better than their PC network. A lot of people don't really have PCs in their house. That said, over the course of my career, I've done a number of gaming events in India. In fact, we did a huge LAN event where, if you know Shah Rukh Khan, he was on stage. He's the Brad Pitt of Bollywood, for those of you that don't know. So he was on stage with me. We shared a dance. He was way better than I was.
Wow.
But anyway, we had tons of gamers come to this LAN event. So it's a ripe ecosystem for gaming. They're passionate. They do want to game. They just don't own the PCs at home. So you have to set up the infrastructure for them. In the case of our LAN, we brought the PCs. We set it up. They came. I think it was Counter-Strike that we played, and we had an awesome time. We played a huge tournament. So I think if India really does want to get into esports, and I think they should, and I think they will, and they want to, just like any other country, the first thing they need to figure out is the infrastructure there at first. So setting up the right practice facilities so the really good players can have a place to go, and compete. Two, how do they start tiering it so you can start competing with better and better players so they can actually form a team that's really good. If they do have aspirations for competing outside of India and they want to get on the international scene, maybe they do some competition with some of the Southeast Asia countries or China or Korea. But I think really what's going to hamper them right now is the infrastructure. I don't think it's the desire. Another opportunity could be, we heard a talk earlier today on mobile esports, games like Vainglory, Clash Royale, Hearthstone. I think that could be another opportunity because I think mobile is the right infrastructure in India. So I think, it goes back to that very first statement I made where, this notion of the gamer, I think is just not what it used to be. Everyone, especially the younger generation, they just love playing games and it's just something they do. So I think it's just natural that it's going to evolve wherever the country is, that gaming is going to be a part of what they do.
Absolutely. And I think just to touch on your point a bit further is that you have the law of large numbers, right? When you're talking about India, it's like 1.25 billion people. By 2020, it's going to overtake China in terms of population, 1.5 billion people. Just do the 10% math, it's like that's a huge audience you can go through.
Frankly, the last thing I'll add to that, I talk about that term gamer. I think personally within Logitech, we've changed that. We use the word play. Because what I think it is all about is play. And when I think about play is inherently fun. And I just believe life is more fun when you play, right? Who doesn't want to play? So we keep talking about gaming and gaming. It's just all about play. And I think when you think about it that way, then you realize, if you're out there as a marketeer trying to figure out, do you get into this? Why wouldn't you get into this? I mean, who wouldn't love to play? Who wouldn't want to be part of that scene? So that's what I think about.
Absolutely. And just to touch on that mobile point once more, one of my favorite quotes or stats I like to say is there's 500 million people in this world that have a phone that don't have a toothbrush. My dad's a dentist. What are you going to bet on? I don't know. Last question for you, Matt. Talk about your best brand experience from a content perspective that you've done, put together, and what was it like working with them?
I would say it was a integration that we did with Ubisoft. So video game brand Easy, and they were, they approached us with kind of like an open slate of, hey, we have this new game, Rainbow Six Siege, pitch us ideas, and we had wanted to do a pilot episode for a new project that we were looking to do that took kind of what our format was, which is very post-production heavy, very much done in the animated space, and translate it to real life. So kind of the Mythbusters of gaming, for lack of a better term. It was kind of an untested format, but they're like, hey, we've worked with you in the past. We trust you to deliver numbers. We like the content that you produce. We're really excited about this. And so, without even kind of having a proof of concept, they enabled us to partner with the LA SWAT team and kind of pick apart the wins of their game,
the
but
LA
also
SWAT team?
Yeah, the LA SWAT team.
Wow.
Yeah, and at a training facility, with the full-on gear, and they were also open enough for us to basically pick apart what was truthful about their game, but also poke fun at what wasn't. Hey, you can't open a door by launching a bunch of thermite at it; it'll set the building on fire. Go figure. And it was one of those things that the brand trusted us, and they sent kind of a brand advocate there to the day of the shoot, so that way we could kind of clear with them what we were saying. But it was this great synergistic relationship of they were comfortable with what we were saying, but they were also giving leeway for us to say what we needed to pick apart the fallacies of the game, while also trusting us enough to be able to speak honestly and authentically to our audience. And it was so well received that it ended up being one of the first. It launched into one of the first YouTube Red series, original content series, which won us a streaming award for best VR series last year. And so opened up a huge variety of doors for us, and it was all off of this just great brand relationship where it was a very mutually trusting integration.
Very, very cool. I think we're about out of time.
I just wondered, we have time for probably one question, if anybody has a question. If not, we're going to roll into the next one. The question way over here. Let's get a mic over there real quickly.
I can talk very loud.
Sorry, but there are people on the live stream, so we want to make sure that they know what you're saying. Because otherwise it just is like, what? What was that?
Thank you. This is directed to Bill. I read Activision, so I have this question about partnerships. When you guys are looking at sponsorship and partnerships with these corporate brands, how are you balancing the sponsorships and looks and feels, and then also with the leagues, and then balancing what the actual individual teams and players have as sponsorships? Sometimes there's a conflict.
Yeah, I think there's two questions in there. One is like, how do we come up with a proposal? And that is typically a group effort on our team. I mean, some people on our team have been around this business so long, even though this business itself hasn't been around that long, that they just instantly know exactly what brand is going to fit with exactly what program, whether it's a league or team or whatever. They just intuitively know it. But we have a very senior group of people who've been around for a long time who brainstorm on this each time, and so we very thoughtfully put together these programs. And there was a second part of your question.
How do you balance the player sponsorships?
Right.
Yeah, players versus other sponsorships. Is there channel conflict or other
Sure. Yeah, I believe in category exclusivity. I mean, wherever possible. If there's a team that we're representing who has a PC sponsorship, they have one PC sponsorship. I'm not going to NASCAR their shirts up with a bunch of competing brands. I just don't think that's good for anybody.